We tend to focus on the bad a lot of times in baseball as fans. Today, we're going to look at the positive. What has been some of the best surprises for the Atlanta Braves so far in 2024, including Reynaldo López, who had another great game on Monday night. We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there as well at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. If you're new and watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And while you're there, hit that thumbs up button as well so other people can find us here on YouTube. You're listening on the audio version where we still get the majority of our listeners. Thank you so much for your support wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple, wherever it may be. Leave me a 5-star review. It does help the show out a ton whenever you do that. And thank you to all my everydayers out there who continue to let me know down in the comment section below on YouTube and who hit me up on social media as well. Thank you. Always enjoy hearing that from you. Today's podcast will recap Monday's game where Reynaldo López just continued to do his thing. Offense still sluggish, but I thought there were some positive signs from them. We'll talk about the biggest moments from the game on Monday, but we're mainly going to focus in the second segment here. What have been the biggest and best surprises for the Atlanta Braves so far in 2024? Get some of your responses from that question as well on today's podcast and set you up for Tuesday's game where Chris Sale, another pleasant surprise this year, is off to a great start. Before we get into all that, though, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use our code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB, for a first deposit match up to $100. Monday night, the Braves get a 2-0 win over the Chicago Cubs. And, good to get a win after what happened Sunday night. You lose a heartbreaker getting walked off by your rival Mets. Then you got to take a late night flight back home. You get in early morning, 3, 4 a.m., whatever the case may have been. You got to get up, play another game. You got to face one of the best pitchers in baseball right now in Shota Imanaga, and the Braves find a way to win. So I thought that was very encouraging for this team, again, after what happened on Sunday night, getting a late night, early morning flight home, having to wake up, play a game the next day against a tough pitcher, and still be able to get a win to kick off this homestand and get the first win, obviously, in a series. Very crucial to trying to get that series win. Minter got the 9th inning again after blowing the game on Sunday night. He puts 2 on with nobody out, gets a big double play, though, and then a fly out to secure the win. I said this on the YouTube short that I put out after the game. There is no manager in all of baseball or in any sport, I think, that is more loyal to their players than Brian Snitker. If you thought that Brian Snitker would never give Minter another chance in the 9th inning, you do not know Brian Snitker. And maybe you don't like that about him. Look, sometimes he can be loyal to a fault. He's slow to change lineups to move things around when guys are struggling. He will just continue to run a guy out there, even though they just clearly don't belong in that spot. But he believes in his guys. And I think more often than not, that's a positive for a team. Guys want to play for a manager who they know believes in them, even when they're struggling, going through rough stretches, that they're going to continue to trust them and put them in those spots. So I know it's tough for fans and it's hard for fans to understand when Minter has clearly not been as good in the 9th inning as he's been in other situations and trying to save games. He just hasn't been as sharp and as crisp as we've seen him as a setup man. But you got to love it as a player to be able to play for a guy who will just continually trust you no matter what and give you as many chances as he can to finally get through those ruts and get it done. And Brian Snitker goes straight back to AJ Minter on Monday night and wasn't easy. Again, looked a little scary there for a moment. I'm sure Braves fans thought, here we go again, but Minter does close it down. He gets the job done. But all of it started with Reynaldo López at the top, and we're going to talk more about him in the second segment, but want to discuss his outing on Monday night in particular, where he went 5 innings, gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, no earned runs, just 4 strikeouts, 71 pitches. He was very, very efficient. 10 whiffs and 18 called strikes on just 71 pitches. That's a 39% called strike plus whip percentage. That is elite. Anything above 30 is really good. And he was pushing close to 40 on that one. 8 whiffs on 15 swings against the slider, which just continues to be a devastating, nasty pitch for him. And what I continue to love to see from Reynaldo López, he averaged 95 on the fastball, but he reached back for 98 whenever he needed to or wanted to. And when he gets into trouble, he needs that 98. He will go to it to try to get that big out, to get out of a jam. There wasn't a lot of trouble in this one, but he did have some in that 5th inning, and he tried to dot up 98 on the outside corner. He missed with the spot, but I love the fact that he can go to it when he needs to, and it's just not max effort out there every pitch. I think that's honestly where more pitchers need to start to work, is to, be okay with 94, 95, 96, averaging that. And then if you have the ability to take it up to 97, 98 when you need to, then saving that for certain spots. He did have 2 on with 2 outs in the 5th inning. Like I said, really the only trouble he had, Zack Short made a good play to help him get out of it. This was definitely the Zack Short game. And that's where we'll go next. We'll talk about the first. I got 3 moments from this game I want to discuss. The first one happened in the 4th inning. Zack Short works a walk to load the bases for Ronald with 2 outs. They got Imanaga on the ropes. He'd been on the ropes all game. Braves had a lot of base runners against him. They pushed up his pitch count, which allowed them to knock him out of the game after 5 innings, which was good, but they couldn't get to him. Ronald gets ahead with a 3-1 count on a check swing that he didn't go. The catcher was pretty upset with the call, started yelling at the umpire. Craig Counsell comes out, gets ejected, basically just taking up for his catcher. But either way, you got a long delay there. It's a 3-1 pitch. Ronald has to know that a fastball is coming and a 3-1 count with the bases loaded. He gets a 93 mile per hour center fastball, and he misses it. Now, it is 100.7 off the bat, but it's a 54-degree launch angle, and he pops it up to right field. But it's just another case this year of Ronald, in a fastball count, that's what he's going to come at you with in that spot, and he's just not able to barrel it up. They talked during the game, the sideline reporter there, I feel like the Braves have a new sideline reporter every game now, but I can't remember her name, but she talked about the fact that Acuna said, that's the one thing he's noticing. The exit velocities are there. He's making hard contact. He's just not getting to the sweet spot. He's not getting to the barrel enough, and that's something that he's working on and adjusting. It's honestly something he's done much better of over the last week or so. But again, it's just one of those spots he had a chance really to get to Imanaga there, put a big number on the board. You're getting a fastball there, and he just could not square it up. 2 base running mistakes in this game as well that potentially cost the Braves some runs. Ronald gets picked off in the 1st inning after getting picked off twice on Sunday Night Baseball. If things play out the same way after that, he probably scores on Olsen's single later in that inning. Ozzie gets caught leaning in the 5th inning. He probably goes 1st to 3rd on Olsen's single, and so he's at 3rd with 1 out for Duvall. Again, can't always assume things are going to play out the same way, but just again, more mistakes on the base pass that are potentially costing the Braves runs. And you have to wonder, are they pressing at this point? It certainly feels like that. They're trying to do a little too much. They know offense has been hard to come by for them lately, and maybe just getting a little over anxious on the base pass, running into some outs. But, as Snitker admitted after the game, the offense is not going well enough for them to give up free outs on the base pass. So that's something they have to figure out. I don't know if it's a personal thing for base runners. I don't know if it's a coaching thing with Tom Goodwin over there. Certainly not trying to blame him. Whatever the case may be, stop getting picked off. I've heard others say it, and I agree. An out is an out, whether you get picked off or caught stealing, but it almost just feels worse when you get picked off. I'd rather see him get caught stealing, not get as big of a lead, but get caught stealing. I'd rather see him just steal a base. But either way, stop getting picked off. It's annoying, and it's costing the Braves run, and they can't afford to do that right now. And then my final, a big moment in the game, obviously came in the 6th, a little bit of 2-out magic. The only runs scored in the game, Arcia and Michael Harris begin the inning with strikeouts. But then Travis d'Arnaud comes up. He loops a soft double down the left field line, and then Zack Short inside and gets an inside-out swing on a sweeper in that he takes the other way down the right field line for a double to drive in the first run of the game. And then Ronald comes up, 94.3 mile per hour, middle sinker that he blasts through the 5-hole for an RBI single himself to make it 2-0. It's very odd to me. You look at the numbers for Ronald this year, and I've gone over the fact that he has really struggled against four-seamers this year, but he's crushing sinkers, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The fact that they're both fastballs, they both have similar velocities, but the sinkers are generally a little bit harder to square up because they're moving. But coming into Monday, he was batting .357 against sinkers this year, but just .159 against four-seamers. Maybe that's a swing adjustment. Maybe that tells me right there that he's trying to get under the baseball a little bit more to get lift, and that's why he's squaring up the sinkers and not squaring up the fastballs. I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more, but it is just really odd. I mean, you had two situations in this game against Imanaga, which, look, nobody hits Imanaga's four-seam fastball. All batters are hitting, I think, 150 against that pitch this year. But you're in a 3-1 count. You know you're getting a fastball, and Ronald can't square it up. And then later in the game, he gets a sinker middle, and he's able to blast it, like I said, through the left side for a hit. Just very curious, maybe something to keep an eye on and look at a little bit more, why he's able to hit sinkers better than four-seamers this year. But that's Monday's game. You want to hear more on that, you can go listen to the postcast with me and Grant McCauley over on Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube or in your Locked On Braves podcast feed. But next, I want to turn our attention to the most pleasant, biggest surprises the Braves have had so far this year. A lot of that coming from the guy on the mound Monday in Reynaldo López, and a lot more of that coming from the guy who will be on the mound Tuesday in Chris Sale. We'll discuss that here next. Baseball season is in full swing. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. And all you got to do is what I'm doing right now, and that's download the PrizePicks app. I've already done that, but now I'm looking at it and seeing what they have out there for Tuesday. And right now they have Jameson Taillon and Chris Sale at 0.5 first inning runs allowed. You think the Braves are going to get that first inning run? You pick more on that total right there. They'll have pitcher strikeouts as well. For Chris Sale out there that you can look at, 6.5 strikeouts for Chris Sale. Do you think he's going to have more or less than that? He's had more than that over his last 2 starts, and he's been really, really good. So you can go and check that out in your PrizePicks app today. Again, it's super simple. Just pick 2 to 6 players and decide if you think they'll get more or less on certain stats like first inning runs allowed, RBIs, fantasy score, total, strikeouts, and more. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. You got sports on your TV all day long, just while you're working. You like to listen to it, but you're tired of hearing all the yelling that they do on ESPN and Fox Sports. It's so annoying, and they really don't know what they're talking about. Don't you want to hear from experts who follow your team every day? Make the switch today to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, coming up later this week on the podcast, probably going to take the day off Wednesday. I'm having a little bit of procedure, so I don't think I'm going to feel like recording on Wednesday. We'll probably have a double dose on Thursday again with the off day. I'll have a podcast that morning recapping these next 2 games, and then we'll have another live mailbag episode Thursday night. And then I'm hoping to have Javier Reyes from Locked On Padres with me over the weekend to preview that series against San Diego. So that's what's coming up the rest of this week on the podcast. But let's jump into our next segment here. And I want to know what you thought has been the best storylines for the Braves so far this year. We get focused a lot of times on the negative, and that's just part of being a fan. But I wanted to see what you thought have been some of the biggest positives for the Braves this year. And a lot of you were obviously thinking about Reynaldo López and Chris Sale. And López, who again was great on Monday night. I didn't need to mention that he left the game with some back tightness. says that Snicker said he should be ready to go for his next start, but just didn't want to push it there. And look, you got to look for chances to kind of limit his innings anyway this season. So get him out of there after 5 innings. Again, hopefully nothing major. But the Braves signed him this past offseason, 3 years, $30 million. They say they're going to try him as a starter. And many people, including myself, thought he'd likely be back in the bullpen because he wasn't very good as a starter. And you just can't say that it's going to translate, because the big reason why he was so good as a reliever is because the velocity on his fastball ticked up to 98. And I mean, you just weren't going to carry that over into a starter's role. But the slider's been so good. He's been able to maintain, good velocity. And like I said earlier, be able to reach back for more when he needs it. But he had one decent year as a starter in 2018, struggled after that before getting moved to the bullpen. He had to win the 5th job in spring training. I felt like he was the favorite just because the Braves were going to give him that chance. And unless he just fell flat on his face in spring training, I felt like he was going to get that opportunity. I don't think anybody could have expected what we've seen from him so far to this point. It's 7 games started now, 40 1/3 innings, a 1.34 ERA, a 1.09 whip, 40 strikeouts, 16 walks. I don't love the walks there, but again, you'll live with that because he's not giving up any hits at this point. And so he has been fantastic for the Braves. Again, I think even better than any of us could have expected. I remain a little skeptical that he's going to be able to continue with an ERA in the low 1s. But either way, he has proven himself that he is a capable starter and that he can be that. And even if he settles into more of a number 3 type of starter, that's going to be really, really good value for the Atlanta Braves. And he's been just a real nice surprise for what he's given the Braves so far this year. Obviously, behind him is Chris Sale. And it's not surprising to me that he's been good. If you go back and listen to the podcast after the Braves made that move, I said you look at the underlying numbers for him last year, and it still showed that he had really good stuff, that the slider was still very effective. But he's been even better than I thought he could be. And while I think there probably is some regression coming for Reynaldo López, there's obviously regression coming. He's not going to have a 1.34 ERA all year. I think Chris Sale, he's pitching, just under a 3 ERA this year. I don't know that he's going to have that, but I think he can pitch to a 3.5 ERA with the stuff that he has right now. I think he can be a top of the rotation arm. The stuff is just so good. And the only real question is, can he stay healthy? And that's obviously not something we're not going to know until the end of the season, but so far he's healthy and he has just been absolutely dominant. The other big surprise for me, and this is one a lot of you mentioned, I'm going to go through some of your responses here in a second, but the other pleasant surprise for me has been Jarred Kelenic. And maybe not so much offensively, which I think will take some time. We're going to have to be patient. You've seen, got off to a really good start. I don't love the fact that he's in and out of the lineup. I just don't think that's good for a player's development and a young player that we're trying to see if he can play every day. I get it. I understand why you want to play the matchups, give yourself the best chance to win. You signed Duvall, telling him that you're going to be in a platoon situation. Look, I've hashed through all of that. It is what it is. But despite all that, he hasn't really let it affect him. And that could have been a good thing for him to handle when, what was it, 2 weeks before the season starts, you think you're going to be an everyday player. And then all of a sudden the Braves sign a veteran, Adam Duvall, and say, nope, you're going to be a platoon player. That's got to be a tough pill to swallow. To his credit, you haven't really seen it affect him, affect his attitude when he's been in there. He has come up in some way, whether it's been at the plate. Like I said, he was good early on, came up with some big hits. Even here lately, he's had a couple of home runs. But the most pleasant surprise has been his defense. I mean, he has been incredible out there. He's made several diving catches. The arm has been really good. He's cut down some runners on the base pass. It's been very, very impressive to see Jarred Kelenic so far. And again, not so much at the plate, but what he's been able to bring defensively and left field has just really been a weapon for the Braves out there. And Adam Duvall's been good in left field too, but I was not expecting that from Jarred Kelenic. I think a lot of the focus has been on his bat, but what he's done defensively, and I guess you can kind of couple this in with one of the other good surprises so far this year is the defense on the left side of the infield. Austin Riley he's going to be a Gold Glove finalist. I think Arcia is too. They have just been absolutely fantastic over there. I've talked about Arcia, and my only knock on him in the past has been a lack of range, and I still think that's there, but he's shown that an improvement in that area this year. He's always had the arm. He's always had the quick hands. If he, if he can still find that range and can improve his range and his jumps on balls, I mean, there's no reason why he can't be a Gold Glove defender. And again, in both of those guys, really all three of them, you want a couple in Kelnick. I don't know if he's going to get the playing time to win a Gold Glove, but if Eddie Rosario was a finalist last year in left field, I got to think Jared Kelnick should be this year. So you're talking about three, at this point, Gold Glove finalists on the left side of the field with Kelnick, Austin Riley, and Orlando Arcia. And as a defensive person, that has been very enjoyable for me to watch. Some of your responders, Bean Eater says the entire pitching staff has been great. Definitely has been a good surprise, especially after the slow start. Andrew says Kelnick feels like a cornerstone piece in what had been a below average defensive position. Definitely think there's more potential there too. Again, I had a lot of people talking about Jared Kelnick. Goldie. Jared Kelnick's swing changes have been enjoyable. The numbers aren't quite there, but you can see the momentum building, and his defense has been Gold Glove worthy. I'm excited about his future. Max says the growth and maturity of Jared Kelnick. He still has work to do, but he's making more consistent, solid contact. Power is starting to show, and he's been so good in left field. I'm eager to see how he progresses. Aegon says F4 leaders on the pitching staff were off-season moves, and that's very nice to see as well. Mentioned Sale, Lopez in the rotation, but also Johnson and Jimenez in the pen. And while those guys were there last year, the Braves signed them to come back. Stanley says Reynaldo Lopez being a dog, and that's DAWG, has been great. Sale's also been exciting. But I think him staying healthy is a larger surprise than him being good. Jeff says the starting pitching, left field, and the left side of the infield defense are three of my top off my head. Those are some of the ones that I mentioned, or all of the ones I mentioned, so I certainly agree with that. Ryan Hall says Sale and Lopez have shoved. Kelnick is a revelation in left field defensively, and his bat is coming around. Riley's glove at third, and Ozuna's bat is a problem. He's turned into a real weapon in that lineup, something we couldn't have said this time last year. CJ says Max Fried pitching a complete game. Don't see many of those these days. That has been a pleasant surprise. April P. Fab says Sale and Lopez. Jay Rowell says Dylan Lee being good again. Yeah, that's been a surprise I didn't mention, but it was a rough year for Dylan Lee last year, and he seems to be back to the Dylan Lee we saw the year before that. That has been a very pleasant surprise. Playoff second round, Ivan says Jared Kelnick has been a very nice surprise, and Ozuna has been a madman at the plate. Couple more here. Nicole says Ozuna and Kelnick. Annoying Braves fan says sell. Andrew says my favorite part is watching. We're going to skip that one. Nate says Chris Sale being healthy and showing his vintage self. Kelnick having the great start to his Braves tenure. Austin Riley's vastly improved third base defense. So we're all pretty much in agreement on the same things there. I was a little surprised to see how many people were pleasantly surprised with what they've seen from Jared Kelnick. It seems like on social media, a lot of the times I just see people complaining about the at-bats when he has bad at-bats. But again, I think it's more so, or a lot to do with what he's brought defensively. The fact that you haven't really seen him sulking with the loss in playing time and bringing up Adam Duvall. And like I said, I know the numbers offensively maybe aren't quite there, but he has had some big moments at the plate as well. And there's more to come. I think it's going to be a year-long thing, development for Jared Kelnick at the plate. But the kid's just 24. And again, he's playing great defense. He is hitting 274 with a 715 OPS. It's not terrible, but he does have those at-bats sometimes that are just throwaway at-bats that I know can frustrate you. I think you're going to have to be patient with him at the plate. But again, just what he's given you defensively out there in left field has been outstanding. So want to put a positive spin on some things that I've seen too much negativity out there lately on this Braves team, which has a really good record and has played good for the most part. But still, there's been some really great storylines for this Braves team so far in 2024. And I'm excited to see where it goes for Lopez, Sale, and Kelnick later on throughout this year. All right, next we'll turn to one of those guys who will be pitching on Tuesday, and Chris Sale. We'll discuss that matchup here next. My wife and I started looking for life insurance several years ago. When we started to have kids, we want to make sure we had that security for them. I wish we would have known about Policygenius at the time. They are the country's leading online insurance marketplace, saving you time and money so you can provide your family with financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description below to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Do have some news to get to, some injury news. Riley still felt sore on Monday, so he had an MRI. It revealed a little bit of inflammation in that area, so that left side area. So they're going to sit him out a couple more days. We'll see. It's kind of just day to day at this point. If things start to get better, then maybe we see him this weekend. If not, then I got to imagine they're going to put him on the IL. It is just 10 days. So at some point, it makes more sense just to get a body up there, let him continue to rest and heal up. I think maybe the good news out of this is that it's not so severe that they just immediately put him on the IL, that they're hopeful that he can be back sooner rather than later. I mentioned the Lopez leaving Monday night's game with some back tightness. Again, it sounded like that wasn't anything to be too concerned about. Lopez wanted to go back out there, but Braves obviously playing it safe with him, and it sounds like he'll make his next start. I thought this was funny. It's not really newsworthy, but I thought it was funny. The Braves put Ronald's 70th stolen base bobblehead in the Cubs broadcast booth. I thought it was honestly hilarious. If you remember last year, the Cubs booth was complaining about Ronald taking time to celebrate that huge milestone that he had last year, and apparently cost the Cubs a chance of getting to the postseason. But I thought it was pretty funny that they did that, so I wanted to mention that in case you missed it. Tuesday night it'll be Charlie Morton versus Jameson Taillon. Morton, he walked 7 batters in his first 2 starts of the year. He has walked 7 batters in his last 5 starts since then. That's been a huge change for him, and obviously, something he has struggled with in the past several years with the Braves are issuing the walks, but he has done a much better job of that. He's been pitching to more contact, and again, it's limiting those walks, and the stuff is still so good, and it's crazy to have to say this to a 40-year-old. Just trust your stuff in the zone, and I feel like that's what Charlie Morton is doing. It's leading to fewer strikeouts, but it's allowing him to go deeper into games. It's getting weak contact. It's getting more outs. And that's what you want from Charlie Morton. It's what you want from your 3rd, 4th starter. He's gone at least 6 innings in 4 straight starts. He's given up 2 earned or less in all of those starts. And again, just throwing quality strikes with his good pitches that he has. Batters to watch in this one: Cody Bellinger 6 for 17 with 3 doubles and just 2 walks to 2 strikeouts, or just 2 strikeouts to 2 walks against Charlie Morton in his career. Yan Gomes, if he's in there, is 3 for 11 against Morton. Nico Hoerner's 3 for 9 with a double. Ian Happ just 1 for 8 with 4 strikeouts, so that could be a good matchup for Charlie Morton against the Cubs. I hope I'm not jinxing this here, but no Cub has homered against Charlie Morton in his career. Hopefully that continues on Tuesday night. If it doesn't, you can come back here and blame me. Jameson Taillon is going to be going for the Cubs. He's been really good this year after a delayed start to the season for injury. He's allowed no more than 1 earned run in all 4 of his starts, and he's given up 3, 4, and 2 hits in 3 of those 4 starts. So he has been fantastic. He, kind of like Charlie Morton, is more pitching to contact at this point. He's not a big strikeout guy. He did have 7 and 6 innings against the Brewers his last time out, but he really hasn't been racking up the strikeouts this year. It's 4-seam, cutter, curve, and sweeper for him. Only the sweeper has a whiff rate over 20%. So again, he's not missing a lot of bats, which is good for this Braves offense, which has been missing a lot of baseballs. So hopefully the Braves can change the trend against Jameson Taillon and put some hard contact up against him, because he has not given up a lot of that so far this year. Some batters to watch: Adam Duvall 6 for 27 with 2 doubles and 8 strikeouts and a walk against Jameson Taillon. We're probably going to see Kelenic against the righty. And again, those numbers aren't exactly great against him anyway, but he does have the most experience against Taillon. Marcell Ozuna 5 for 15 with a double. So hopefully the Big Bear has a good night. Arcia, 4 for 10 against Jamison Tyon. And then Albies, Olsen, and Acuna have all homered against them. They also all homered together in a game not too long ago. So hopefully we see that again. And hopefully we see the Braves get a win on Tuesday, go ahead and wrap up a series win here and clinch a series win against the Cubs. That would certainly be great to see. I would love that to happen. I think I mentioned Charlie Morton's pitching this game. I don't know why I said that. It is going to be Chris Sale. So forget everything that I just said there about Charlie Morton. It is going to be Chris Sale on the mound against Jamison Tyon and the Cubs on Tuesday night. Chris Sale, as I mentioned throughout the podcast, been one of the biggest surprises for the Braves so far this season, and he has been just utterly dominant. A 2.95 ERA, a 0.98 whip. And again, hopefully see him continue that trend on Tuesday. Not Charlie Morton, but Chris Sale looking to help the Braves clinch a series victory over the Cubs on Tuesday night. That'll do it for this episode, but I do want to remind you again that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's now also available on the free Amazon Fire TV app and the free Fire TV channels app. If you made it to the end of this, let me know how I messed up the end of this podcast, giving you the wrong picture for Tuesday's game in the comments section below. But thank you so much for joining me here at Locked On Braves. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you're new, hit that thumbs up button. Follow us on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.